Good morning or good evening or whatever it is. It's morning. Of course it's morning. Burnaby. Well, it's the second day of a long weekend. So tonight, instead of waking up to a traditional Sunday, we wake up to a Saturday, but we have another Saturday to continue. So it'll be great fun for this weekend. A lot of suites in the building here are owned by seniors, and there's an awful lot of kids moving in for the long weekend. I guess it's long weekend with grandma or granddad this weekend. So it all should be fun and exciting. So grab your cup of tea, hot chocolate, whatever you like, and we'll get going. I was surprised to see that this sign is outside the Canuck Ticket. Pretty good. But why are we doing stuff like this only on Remembrance Day? These people, now granted, there are very few left over from the Second World War, but these people put down their lives so that we could have freedoms which we all do today. So why can't our veterans ride BC Transit for free? Do you really think it's going to put that big a dent into the BC Transit fundraising? Now, of course, this whole week, people have been getting out there and saying thank you to our vets. And, I think that's wonderful, and they should be doing it. But they should be doing it every single day of the year. We see a vet, they pretty well go unnoticed. They wear either the blue, navy blue of the Legion, or the purple of the Air Force, Navy, Army, Air Force, Navy veterans. If we see those, we should say thank you. They pretty much have taken care of their own. People work hard throughout the year, and I'll give them that. But, there's a lot of people who come back, lost limbs, their hearing's gone, whatever injuries they've received on the war field should be thanked. And, we're kind of just a lot of times not willing to notice these people. And yes, it's great, I know all the schools do a Remembrance Day visual assembly before, but especially when Remembrance Day lands on the end of the week. So for the next 4 years, well, 3 more after this one, Remembrance Day is going to be a long weekend. And all I kept hearing was ads on radio and stuff saying, it's the Remembrance Day long weekend. Why don't you book a trip somewhere? I can understand that for Christmas. I can understand that for Easter. Yes, get away, wonderful times. But what I can't understand is why you want to get away for a Remembrance Day. Now, true, most of the people of the armed forces who fought in the Second World War, there's none left in BC. So I can see where the wane, and people think of that, but they don't think of the people who are out on our ships every day patrolling. They don't think about people on the peacekeeping missions. They are all veterans, and we should all thank them. And I think part of the way we thank them is by offering free transit service. Now, I put in that picture at the beginning of this segment saying, great, but why shouldn't we do that every single day? You know, there are veterans going out and who are going hungry because they are disabled because of their fight. I know it's tough for me, and I'm on disability, but I'm not on disability because I fought for this country. I'm on disability because my diabetes just doesn't want to follow. So every time you see a vet, say thank you. You know, there's an awful lot of videos, and yes, they're from the States, but there's an awful lot of videos about saying thank you to police officers, buying them coffee, buying them donuts. And you know what? That's what we should be doing every day. Every day when we see a vet, we should be out there thanking them. You know, the second or November 11th each year, we get out and we say thank you. And a lot of us go down to the cenotaph. I did. I went to the Burnaby one today, and it was quite nice. And an awful lot of people feel it's their responsibility to go and thank. But what are we thankful for? We're thankful that they not gave their life, but they served so that we could have our freedoms. Now, you know, I think as our people get older, our veterans get older, we need to stop and say it more often. And, you know, if a veteran's out there freezing and not being able to be fed, and we should do something about it. Not just go on our merry way, but I think, to be perfectly honest, Canada's been at peace for so long that none of our children really understand what war is. Most of our veterans that are alive were from the Korean and the Vietnam Wars, even though we officially didn't get into the Vietnam War, but we were there in Korea. And I think we have a whole generation not knowing what war is. Now, I'm not saying, and don't get this wrong, don't misconstrue this in any way, I'm not saying, oh, well, we should all just go back and have a war just so our kids will know what war is. That's ridiculous. We need to ensure that our kids are thankful for what they have. For many years, before it was shut down, I volunteered at Shaughnessy Hospital. Now, I don't know why I chose Shaughnessy. It was a big hospital. So I went there and I volunteered. And I was admissions clerk. And a lot of times, not a clerk, sorry, but a volunteer. And we would take people from admitting to the areas in which they were going to. And we would pass by the wards that would house the veterans, and you know what? A lot of them could not be left alone. You know, they were in such dire need of medical attention that they were constantly kept in the hospital. And, the big highlight, and I don't know, but I think it was every Thursday afternoon, they would have a bar night. And, they could have a drink but what was really sad was a number of these people that were in this ward and their families didn't come and visit them. It's kind of like, oh, well, yeah, you're old. But, oh, all the kids in that are saying, oh, they are so busy. Well, they're only busy because of what their fathers, grandfathers did for them. And, a lot of times we have older people who come and who will say, oh, can I see you for a bit? And we don't go. We try to think of ways of getting out. And I think we really have to stop and come out and say thank you, and because our grandparents, our great grandparents, our parents, every time there was a war or a fighting had broken out, yes, our veterans, our armies went and fought valiantly. However, there were a number of people that stayed at home and kept the homes going. So, yes, it's important to thank our veterans, but it's also important to thank your parents, to thank your grandparents for the life you have. A lot of them put up through a whole bunch of struggles. And we need to ensure that we stop and we say thank you to them on an ongoing basis. Because, it could have very easily gone the wrong way. For part of the Second World War, no one knew how it was going to come up. A lot of people thought Germany was going to take over the world. And I think we really have to be aware of what people put in so that we could live in the way we live today. And, while I was there, I heard a couple of teenage boys, I guess their parents had dragged them out to this Remembrance Day ceremony yesterday. And, oh, why do we have to go? We did it already in school. And I really wanted to say, because the life you have, you wouldn't have if they did not go and fight for you. They didn't even not know that you were around at that time, but they went out, they fought for you, and you should be damn well thankful for it. The life that you have today is what we are all thankful for. So, every day, get out there, say thank you. Now, the Vancouver Canucks did something that was reported today, and that was they donated 1,000 tickets to, I think, tonight's game to the Abbotsford Senior Secondary School to be given out for teachers, students, family, friends, to go and to get away from the normal of what's going on. And I think, you know what? I think that's an awesome. That it gives kids something they like to do, and it'll give them a chance to get away from, you know, one of their students passed away. And just one second. There we go. You know, there are a few people, and I've heard this on, phone and radio shows today, that were not upset about the Abbotsford killings. They were upset, however, that just because somebody decided to go and stab that, the Canucks gave away these tickets when they should go to the people who actually support the team. And, it's gone back to the old philosophy. What can I get out of this? And the Canucks thought it would be a nice gesture. And I think it's an awesome gesture. But you know what? Next time the Canucks aren't going to be doing anything like this because people are going to get upset and whine and complain about it. It's different if somebody just did it just to get the tickets. But a schoolmate was killed because someone decided to go into the school and do something. And I think we really need to stop, what can I get out of everything? That's our whole philosophy out there nowadays, is what can I get out of it? And Abbotsford went through a terrific loss. It was one 13-year-old girl. But this 13-year-old girl was quite popular in the school and even with her church. And, why are we arguing over, should the Canucks do this or should we give them out to the people who supported the team? Give the kids a night out. Take them away from, the area in which they lived in and had trouble. I know during the Second World War, there was an awful lot of kids that were moved out of London and Britain altogether. And they came and were evacuated over to Canada. And a lot of them came and were able to live in a peaceful country. Well, Canada was at war. That was true. But, a lot of us, we were living here, weren't feeling the effects. There weren't night raids. You didn't wake up and not knowing if your neighborhood was being bombed. So bring them over here while it was for their safety. But more important, it was a way to get away from the effects of war. And Canada opened up. A lot of the families took these individuals in as their own. Now, I'm thinking that the Canucks kind of are doing the exact same thing. They're taking the kids away from Abbotsford, getting them into the public, saying, we're sorry this happened, but now, it's time to move on. Get out there, enjoy life. They've had the school was closed, they had a period of mourning, and now they're having a fun time. I don't see anything wrong with that. There were an awful lot of people saying, Well, why don't they give away tickets to the rest of us for free? And some of the comments, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. People, sometimes you just need to take a pill. Just because things are not always for you, you don't need to ruin it for everything else. The Canucks were doing a great thing. I don't know how, if they're going to do a ceremony or if they're just going to be in the audience, but it really shouldn't matter. These kids, a lot of them were afraid to return to school on Monday, even though Monday was a half day. The schools in the area, the junior high and the elementary schools, were all put down on lockdown. And it was a very stressful period for everyone. So having the Canucks do something like this is a great thing. But again, there's people out there saying, oh, what's in it for me? Why aren't you doing this for me? We have to, I don't know, what's the ticket worth now? $65 to $85? Taking a family of 4 out is expensive. But allowing these kids a chance to now have fun, and, I apologize to the family and friends of the girl who was stabbed to death. But they need to get on with their lives. They need to show that they can move on. And I think what is her name, Letitia? Don't quote me on her name. But I think she would want her family and friends to move on. But, in the future, nothing like this is going to happen. What these people are doing is going to get into ruining it for anyone if we ever have anything like this again. And people, why are we worrying about what we can get out of this? The teenagers couldn't afford $65. There were 1,000 tickets available. So get them out. Get them away from the school and the community. A lot of them were, for the week, they were stuck at home, worrying about what was the first day of school going to be like. They've gone through a week of mourning, with grief counselors out at the school. And true, some of the kids out there could care less. And all due respect, they should care, but I know a lot of them aren't going to care. So, what do we have to do? To give them a night out. But, I think if we all sit there and say, well, why are the Canucks doing this? And, the Canucks have to please everyone. And the Canucks just wanted to do a nice thing. So can we leave it at that and stop whining that you didn't get a free ticket? It's something to think about. Okay, I thought we were finally over this. But, again, the U.S. election got in the news. And there's posts all over Facebook coming from different angles. And, There was, I think, just one sec here. I think it was the state of Maine had introduced a bill, or the governor signed it, or anyway, it's going to be law to free up the College of Electors, or the Electoral College. People, when the popular vote is higher than who actually won by Electoral College, that the Electoral College, from right now it's Maine, but others are looking at this, to say that they can vote freely, so that it's not always like who supposedly won the site. And there were two states that the governor said, I'm not going to sign this, I'm not going to worry about it. One was California, where Schwarzenegger, who was the governor at the time, said no. And there was another one. But it was surprising that both of these states had Republican governors. Now, I don't know if the Electoral College is the greatest way to go. To say, getting to 271st means you win. Because there's a number of people out there who feel disenfranchised. And there were a number of videos on Facebook and through YouTube where, we're coming out to hunt you. If, you left people, we're going to own the Supreme Court for the next generation. And you know what? That's not what this was all about. It was how you were going to run your country. Not to say, oh, well, you bigots and all that, you left-wing lefties or whatever, we're in control now. We're taking back our country. And, there were people who appeared, and I'm saying appeared because I don't know, who appeared to be Muslim. There was a girl attacked waiting for the bus by an ex-Trump supporter. And, I'm really thinking, this is what you voted him in for? Just so you can go race around and gloat? I really think that the United States should at least have a third viable option. And maybe the Republicans or the Democrats can't hold an office if they don't have support from another party. This has always worked up here in Canada with minority governments. We have a certain amount of seats in the House of Commons. If you have over that majority, then you have a majority government, which means you can pretty well do what you want and introduce any bills. Then there's always a minority government, which forms what they call a coalition. Now, two parties is always, you always have people pointing the finger, saying, oh, you know what? I don't think you're worthy. You've done this because it's all political, and you're a Republican, and I'm a Democrat, and But the one thing to remember is life doesn't go by that. You need to wake up and say that we need to become one country. Now, just the same as you were expected to live under democratic rule for the last 8 years, you need to now be conscious of the other side. Not by gloating and saying, oh yes, we won, or going beat up a minority. It's still one country. But, oh well, we have to go out there and make America great, and the only way we're going to do this is by getting rid of all those Muslims or whatever types in the neighborhood. And I'm sorry, I think we really have to bring the United States together. The United States isn't going to be great if either side down there can't become one. But, they don't see it that way. They won and they can do whatever they want to whatever minorities out there. So, this girl who got stabbed, I guess, got it wrong on both sides. One, she looked Muslim. I don't know if she was or not. But on the second hand, she was a woman. And we saw that an awful lot of these people, we saw by his actions, he doesn't really respect women. And I think, oh yes, they're going to get all these people out of. And already there was a report on Facebook that after meeting with Obama, he's not going to repeal Obamacare. I don't know if that's, you can't believe everything you read on Facebook. But that could be an option. But I don't think just saying, okay, healthcare is gone now. Here, go back to the insurance companies. Because how many people were out without medical care? And a lot of people can't afford medical care. And these are white middle class people. But going out there, beating up people, and I've said this in other vlogs on the YouTube, that we've seen people get upset and force their views on another. Bullying. And we've seen an increase in schools, and you've chosen to take your country in a different path. Now, unless Hillary or whoever using the Electoral College or having the states change their rules, that's just going to make him say, oh yeah, it's all rigged for her again. But the thing to remember is she did get the popular vote. And maybe we need to change your constitution and come up with a way of utilizing the Electoral College as a way to confirm what the people wanted. Hillary, it was close, but Hillary won out. And, I think now coming and changing all these rules or trying to change that is just going to make him go and say, well, you see, it was rigged. They just pull out all the stops. And it didn't help that this governor of the state was a Democrat. So that's why I'm thinking there's got to be at least 3 viable parties. It's all about having choices. And I find it funny that the US can only have two parties, one being extremely right and one being extremely left. Why couldn't we have one that does the best for America? I think there's also so much special interest out there that if either one of these people had to go and run an election on just getting money from the average person, I think you probably would have come out with a different election. I think you need to at least have three parties, one that, you may have to form a coalition. I don't know, but you need to get out there and stop acting like a bunch of jackasses. Yes, your side won, great, but you don't need to be sort of like a bunch of asses. And I have to say it. Growing up, there were times we all went through it where our parents had to come out and say, these things. And we need to be aware that when you're acting like jackasses, someone needs to tell you. So the people down there who are acting up and, oh, well, yes, the right is in the White House and the Senate, and, oh, yes, we'll have things all our way, and you just have to sit there and shut up and take it. That's not what America was about. But I think you need to change your system and have a party that just wants to do what's the best for the country. Something to think about. Okay, so we're done for today. That took a while. But, we discussed remembrance and getting out there every day and saying thank you. We talked about... What else did we talk about? We talked about the U.S. election again, and hopefully this is the last time. And we talked about the Canucks giving away tickets to the Abbotsford School. And I think we should be grateful that somebody does this for other people. And, stop thinking about yourselves. For once, this is what pretty well the whole theme of today's. Stop thinking about yourself. Get out there, say thank you, any way you can. Have a great night, and I'll be back tomorrow, being Sunday, and we'll have a nice little chat again. Bye now.